If you guys know anything about aquatic turtles, then you know they love eating guppies. The same thing goes for aquatic frogs like African clawed frogs. But you'll go broke if you try to feed your turtles with fancy guppies. They're way too expensive. Welcome to Parker's Swamp. I'm Parker, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can turn an old crusty 10-gallon aquarium like this into a guppy breeding factory like this. I've been breeding guppies for about 8 years. I've learned a lot from the guppy breeding community, and I'm going to share it with you guys. So make sure you watch the full video for all the ins and outs of guppy breeding, so you can breed guppies to feed your turtles. Let's jump right in. Okay, so first things first, I have this dirty 10-gallon tank. I need to get it clean. Maybe you're starting with a clean tank already, so feel free to skip this part, but I'm going to show you how I clean a disgusting, filthy tank like this. Let's spray it down, then we can get to scraping the sides with our razor. Sprayed it down. Now it's time to dump this dirty water. So anytime we have unwanted gunk on the sides of the aquarium, we can take a straight razor and just get to etching it off, scraping that off. Hard water, algae, whatever the case, a good straight razor will get the job done. Okay, we're just about done scraping, so let's spray this back down and get it down into the swamp room. Our guppy factory is going to need a light. I like these Night Crew Classic LED aquarium lights, size 12 to 18 inches, 6 watts. We're also going to need filtration in our aquarium. I like sponge filters because they don't suck up any of the fry, the baby guppies. So you need an aerator and a sponge filter. Sponge filters are awesome because they use aerobic and anaerobic bacteria to turn ammonia into nitrites and nitrates, which are going to feed the plants in your tank and create a little ecosystem. We're also going to need a heater because these are tropical fish, and we want our temperature around 80 to 83 degrees to keep them breeding more quickly. As for substrate, I like aquarium sand. It's heavy, you can gravel vacuum it and suck out all the fish poop without sucking the sand into your filter. Next up, we got to fill the tank with water. I use my well water. It's really hard, and hard water is good for live bearers like guppies, that is fish that give live birth. If you have soft water, you may need to add some crushed coral to make your water a little bit harder for them. Now, if you have some kind of city water, then you have chlorine in your water. You're going to need to treat that with a water conditioner like Aquarium. It's cheap, it's easy. Maybe you have a different conditioner you like, but I like Aquarium. I don't know how to pronounce it. But there's instructions right there on the bottle. It's even for 10 gallons, so you don't even have to do any math. You just do what the bottle says. Super easy. So you need to treat your water if you have chlorine in your water. If not, then yeah, you got well water. That's even better. If you want healthy guppies, then you need fresh water in your tank. So I change out about a third of the water from my 10-gallon every Wednesday. I call it Water Change Wednesday. It's something the guppy guys do. I just use a small container like this to eyeball it. About a third of the water gets changed. That's going to remove any waste from the water column itself, nitrites and nitrates that the plants haven't sucked up. This is going to help you get fresh water into your tank to help you care for your guppies. So then when it comes to filling back up, we're going to treat our water if we have chlorine in it. If not, we're going to use our hard water from our well, and I like to use the same container to gently fill the tank back up. Now, I don't want to stir up all that sand. I don't want to make a big hole where the water drops in, so I will lift up the container high enough to avoid creating a hole and stirring up all the sand. I don't want to mess with the plants. I don't want to scare the fish too much, so I like to use care when filling my tank back up. Okay, now it's time to talk plants. I like dwarf water lettuce, Java moss, and guppy grass. You should be able to find these at your local pet store, your local aquarium shop, or even on Etsy. I choose these 3 plants because they give 3 different types of hiding places. The dwarf water lettuce will provide cover at the top of the tank, the guppy grass will provide cover and hiding places in the middle of the tank, and the Java moss will grow on the bottom of the tank and provide cover down there as well. So if you use all 3, then you have cover for your fry all throughout the tank at various levels of water depth. In order to help my plants grow, I use Aquarium Co-op Easy Green. It's an all-in-one fertilizer, super easy to use. Again, the instructions are for a 10-gallon tank. It's 1 pump once a week in low light or 2 pumps for high light. I drop 2 pumps in right after a water change in order to make sure that my plants have the right nutrients to grow. Again, I know this may sound like a hassle, but we're getting started here. Once you have everything set up, you have a little ecosystem, and your guppies can grow, and you can start feeding your turtles your own guppies. A key component for your guppy factory is having snails. They will help eat all the excess food that your guppies miss. They will eat some algae off the sides of the tank. They'll eat your dead or dying vegetation. A lot of people complain thinking that they eat their plants. They don't eat your plants unless they're dying. I like garden snails or bladder snails and these ram's horn snails you see right here. These bladder snails also make amazing food for your turtles. So snails will help clean up extra food, but so will Amano shrimp or algae shrimp. Now these aren't necessary for your tank, but they are cheap and they are pretty cool. They will keep the algae from growing on your guppy grass and Java moss. No need to pick up any special shrimp food. They will eat detritus growing on the plants and on the bottom of the tank, and they will eat your algae, and they'll eat excess guppy food as well. I mean, they're super cool little guys, and if you get sick of them, your turtles would like to meet them as well. Now when it comes to choosing your guppies, you can choose to breed fancy guppies, which are more expensive and they're really colorful, big poofy tails. Females aren't as pretty as the males. Or you could also choose endlers. Endlers are typically the breeder guppies you can find at the pet store. They're both guppies, they just come from different parts of the world. I like to buy a dozen endlers and I'll put them in with my turtles, and then I'll take the survivors of those endlers and I'll breed them with 1 or 2 pairs of fancy guppies in order to have like super tough, fancy, large guppies. So fancy guppies are fancy and soft, but they're big and juicy. Endlers are small, but they're tough and durable. So when you take the survivors out of your turtle tank, dump them into the 10-gallon tank, and then buy 1 or 2 breeding pairs of fancy guppies, you can create this tough but large super strain of guppies that you can feed your turtles. Feeding your guppies is super easy. I like tetracolor tropical flakes. These are really cheap and they last a really long time. You can feed them solely this food. You can also change it up with tetracolor tropical granules. These will fall all the way down to the bottom, so if your snails aren't getting enough food, you can crunch up some of these. The fish will eat them, the shrimp will eat them, the snails will eat them. These are great as well. I like to take just a little pinch and I will crush them up so that the baby fry can get them. I like to have a different size variation so that all the different animals get to eat and not just the big old chubby female guppies. I also really like these tabs. You stick them on the side of the glass, they stick there, and then you get to see all the different guppies in your tank. They'll come on over to the tab. You can count them if you want. You can see the different generations all feeding at once. These are called Sarah Onip tabs. They are not the cheapest food, but it's kind of fun. I don't feed this as like their staple food, but here and there I will feed it to them in order to get a good count or just to make some good videos. So I like to feed the shrimp and the snails in the tank by themselves without guppies for a week or 2 in order for the beneficial bacteria to start growing on the sides of the tank and inside of the sponge filter. Then I'll put my fish in, and you'll notice right away the males will start chasing the females around. They have a little fin on the bottom of them where their wiener would be, and this is called a gynapodium. This is what they use to impregnate the females. It doesn't matter if the females are already pregnant, the males will continue to bother them. So make sure you don't have too many males in your tank. You'll notice that the females are pregnant because they have this big black spot that you can see from behind. Those are the developing babies. These are live bearers, so they're going to give birth to the babies live instead of laying eggs. A good general rule is to have 2 females for every male. You can go way above that. You can have 5 females and 1 male or 2 males, but don't have too many males because they will drive the females insane. If you have more females than the males, have a really hard time deciding who they want to go after, and each female gets more of a break between the pestering. Guppy's gestational period is about 21 to 31 days, so after that you can expect to find these little guys in your tank swimming around, hiding in the different vegetation you've put in there. They like to hide from the males, usually the males. Sometimes the females will also try and snack on them. These little guys are super hard to get on camera, but they are swimming around in there. The first couple days they're especially vulnerable to being eaten, but after that they're good to go, so just make them survive for the first couple days and you are good. The good thing about this method of growing live bears is that you can use it on different species like platies, swordtails, perhaps even mollies, and weird exotic fish like humpback lemias. Humpback lemias are super cool. You can have them in the hobby. They are endangered in the wild, and so I feel a little bit weird about breeding them solely for the purpose of feeding to my turtles, but I will cull from here. I'll take the rejects and I will feed them to the turtles in order to keep the line healthy. As you get more confident in your breeding abilities, you may want to add some crustaceans into the mix, maybe some cherry shrimp or some dwarf Mexican crayfish. These are just cool to watch, and of course your turtles are going to love to eat them. Sometimes you get lucky with the tank, your plants just do really well, and you can add all sorts of species together. Here I have platies, I have guppies, I have least killifish, and even Mexican dwarf crayfish all together in one 10-gallon, absolutely thriving. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. If you have turtles that are aquatic, they like eating guppies. So if you can, you should try breeding your own guppies to feed to your turtles. It's a really cool project to get into. It could save you a trip to the pet store and may even save you some money. I know your turtles are going to be really happy chasing live prey. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. And if you did, leave me a like. Drop me a comment. I want to hear from you guys. What was the most helpful tip? Have you tried breeding guppies yourself? Have you ever tried a different method of guppy breeding than I used in this video? And if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's lots more coming down the pike. See you next time.